So for this video, yet again, I am joined by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me for this video. What are we doing today? Well, I'm going to tell you. We are going to talk about mutual favorite authors, or at least authors we have both read a bunch of stuff from, but we happen to disagree on what our favorite book from them is.
Yeah. So we'll make our case and tell you which one of us is right and why.
I did not think that was a part of this. I thought we were just talking about the books themselves.
Whatever.
Because they all know that my tastes are superior.
Oh, okay. I mean, I guess they are subscribed to you for a reason. But maybe they'll think my tastes are superior. You never know. Let us know in the comments as you watch.
Yeah, who has the better taste? Me. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, as an honorable mention, Stacey is not a huge fan of Stephen King, but she has enjoyed at least some of his works.
Yeah, and I think I've read a considerable amount of them. I mean, like, nowhere near all of them, but at least a quarter of them.
And we definitely have a different opinion about what his best work is. So, yeah. My favorite has always been The Dead Zone, and your favorite is
Dolores Claiborne. So, we have both read both, obviously. I gave The Dead Zone 3.5 stars. I liked where it started, and then I was interested in like the mystery aspect of it, but King does King things and that he introduces a premise and then flips what the book is actually about. And this was a case of I didn't really appreciate where it did end up going as much, so it didn't work as well for me. And then Dolores is a favorite for me because of the mix of her humor and her reactiveness and expressiveness. That's a winning combo in a character for me.
So Dolores, both of these books are definitely top 10 for me. And I love Dolores Claiborne, especially the audiobook.
Yeah, the audio is good.
But The Dead Zone, the reasons why you don't like it is why I love it. I love when sometimes King doesn't do it well, but when Stephen King can kind of take an idea and go in a bunch of different directions with it and have it be equally compelling, at least in my opinion, I really like it.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just an honorable mention because she's not a big King fan. The rest of these are all going to be authors that we generally agree we like.
Okay. But
we have different favorites.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike King. I would just say I have mixed experiences with him.
So next up, we have the Band series by Nicholas Eames. It's going to be a trilogy eventually whenever the third book comes out. But for right now, it's just 2 books, and we disagree on which one is the best. For me, I love book 1, Kings of the Wild.
And I loved Bloody Rose, the second book. I think Bloody Rose just has a more serious, maybe even a little bit of a darker tone. And I appreciated that so much more than kind of like the humor that was present in Kings of the Wild. Like, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the humor, but I just thought it veered a little bit more towards like the silly or like ridiculous. Whereas Bloody Rose veered a little bit more towards like the serious kind of broody. And I appreciated that more.
And again, the reason why you didn't like this as much is the reason I loved it. I love the humor, but not just the humor. Also, a cool thing about this series is that each book kind of deals with, like, it has a lot of music references in it, and Kings of the Wild has a bunch of 70s classic rock references, which that's my jam. The Bloody Rose has a lot of music stuff, but it's a lot of 80s stuff, which I'm not as big a fan. So that's another reason why I caught so many references in this, and it was awesome.
Well, for me, I mean, I did enjoy the music references that I caught, but I was more in it for the Canadian references because there's a lot of those that are in there subtly, and I caught them in both books. Yeah, so.
Kings of the Wild is better.
I think it depends on your tastes. But also, it wasn't just the humor in this one that didn't work as well for me. There is like plot stuff where there's a little bit of a logical thing in one section that didn't work as well for me either. Whereas Bloody Rose didn't have that problem, so.
It'd be funny to see if we agree on the third book or not.
Yeah, watch us both love the third book, and then this one ends up moot.
We'll see. So next up, we have one of your like all-time favorite series. This is probably my favorite fantasy trilogy, but I wouldn't call it my favorite fantasy series, but this is one of your favorites. And we kind of disagree on which is the best. I think we both love all the books, But
Fair enough.
for me, the Poppy War book 1 is my favorite.
No. This is a hot take, but Burning God is my favorite. I'm saying this as a fan of grimdark fantasy, and this was kind of my introduction to grimdark fantasy, which is partly why it holds such a special place in my heart. I do recognize that this is not the popular favorite of the series. A lot of people are in the same boat as you, where they like book 1 the best, but also I think the fan favorite of the series for people who like the trilogy is number 2. So we're both kind of in a hot take. But I think for me, like, book 1 has a big tonal shift partway through, and I didn't appreciate like the first 2/3 of it as much before that tone shift as you did. Whereas like as the series goes on, it gets darker and more grim. And in book 3, Rin is really grappling with the ramifications of everything that's gone down. And I loved the experience of having her have to struggle with that emotionally. And then also the ending of this gave me literal chills. This is one where I just had to stop and think about the ending after I read it and just sit there for 10 minutes. And I don't have that experience when I finish a book or a series very often. So this just like hit me in the feels and gave me chills and goosebumps.
So I'll talk about the ending first. I kind of had an image in my mind of what the ending was going to be, and it wasn't that. So I was slightly disappointed with that ending. But then also, I'm just going to throw out that you might sense a theme, at least for me in this series, in this video. I tend to love first books in series because I love the introduction of the world and the characters. And the introduction in here, there is definitely a tonal shift, but I kind of liked that. I kind of liked where we see Rin at the beginning and then where she is at the end of the book. I kind of like that arc. But yeah, definitely a lot of the times, not every time, but I tend to like first books in series more than you do.
Oh yeah, I tend to like second books in series the most, actually, unless it's like second book syndrome. But yeah, the ending to trilogies is really hard. This is like the only trilogy ending I can think of that is like my favorite is the ending. Like, I'm less into heavy descriptions, and so sometimes the setup of a world building can be a little bit bogged down for me. So book 1 doesn't necessarily work as well. And then book 2 is sort of usually when we get into the meat of the plot and you're like building on everything that you've kind of already introduced. And that tends to be like some of my favorite stuff.
So, but I will say, I still love this trilogy.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite fantasy trilogy. You know, books, you know, 1 and 2 for me both get 5 stars. And then this one gets close to 5 as you can get. Like 4.5, 4.75. Just, I like the first 2 more.
Yeah, for me, Poppy War was a 4, Dragon Republic was a 4.5, and this was a full 5.
Probably everyone in the comments is like, it's book 2!
Yeah, y'all
both suck! So next up is one of my all-time favorite authors. She's probably, definitely top 10, possibly top 5. And we both have enjoyed a lot of her books.
We've read them all, except I haven't read the newest one that just came out last week.
Yeah, and I have a ranking for all of her books. Go watch that, please. Also, oh yeah, basically we've read all her books, except you haven't read the newest one. And we disagree on what our favorites are. So for me, hands down, my favorite is Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh yeah, and it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, by the way.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah. And my favorite is After I Do.
Which I did really enjoy.
This one just captivated me with something new and interesting. So the premise of this is you have a married couple, but the magic of the relationship or the romance is kind of worn off. And it's them grappling with and deciding, like, where do they go from here? And it's really emotional, and it has really strong themes of, like, don't take your relationship for granted. And it just hit me. I really loved it.
And again, I love this book because of the music stuff. This band, like Daisy Jones and the Six, is kind of modeled after a real life band, Fleetwood Mac, which I happen to be wearing the shirt, coincidentally. But yeah, I loved that, and I also just loved the characters. I loved the band drama. I loved the audiobook, which had a full cast narration. So everything about this was excellent. It was also the first of her books that I read, and everything after that was still really great, but nothing has topped it since.
So I liked Daisy Jones, but it did take me a while to get into. I didn't necessarily vibe with it straight away, whereas like this sucked me in right away, and it just hit me more emotionally.
I would say that one took me a while to get into.
So you had the opposite experience?
Yeah, because like the first chapter was basically like only like 2 pages, and we get like the tension, but then we flash back to like, oh, everything's great, yeah, and then it takes a while to get to the tension again.
This is such a Jake thing. He hates short chapters, and I love tension, so this perfectly explains everything.
Well, yeah, but also, you know, we do agree mostly on Taylor Jenkins Reid, except for One True Loves. You hated that book.
Oh, that book made me angry. Like, I threw it across the bed when I finished it. By the end, I was like, she doesn't deserve either one of them. No.
But we both enjoyed, you know, like Evelyn Hugo, Maybe in Another Life.
Yeah. Carrie Soto.
Malibu Rising.
Yeah. I liked it. I didn't love it.
Go check out my video. Dropping books here. So we already talked about Poppy War, which is one of your all-time favorite series. Now we're jumping to my all-time favorite series of any genre, A Song of Ice and Fire. And my all-time favorite book, period, is Storm of Swords, book 3.
Yeah, this is one where I'm maybe a bit more of an outlier. I think Storm of Swords is the popular fan favorite of the series. But my favorite is actually book 1, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I would say that's probably the second favorite.
Okay, that's fair. I think for me, like, I didn't struggle as much with the introduction of everything or the pace of everything in this one because I had already seen the beginning of the show before I read this. And so I think that helped me for sure because I had more context going in. But there's something about seeing the character work in this one, and the pacing of this one is just a little bit more fast, I would say.
It's definitely the fastest paced of the books.
Yeah, I think that's why I love it.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I kind of got into the show and then read the books. I watched the first 4 seasons, and then I kind of knew that the first 3 books were based on that. And I got to the 3rd book, and you get even more crazier stuff that the show kind of cut out.
Yeah.
And you get to the end of the book, and it's just like, holy crap. Also, like plot-wise, like a lot of major things happen in the 3rd book. Like tons of major deaths and carnage and betrayals, and just tons of bat crap craziness happens in this book.
I would say like it's all towards the end of that book too, which is part of the reason it's not like my favorite, because it's like a slow build until like a giant everything goes wrong.
But I love these characters so much, so I'm all for it.
I mean, I love the characters too, but I liked book 1 the best.
That's fine. A lot of these books, by the way, are going to be fantasy because we have read a lot of similar fantasy series, and a lot of authors that we both read a lot from happen to be fantasy.
Yeah, I would say we both definitely read like thrillers and horror, but we don't tend to like read out an author's backlist in those genres as much.
Yeah. This next series is again one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, and you've recently read this, I think last year.
Yeah.
And again, book 1 is my favorite, and or of course talking about Michael J. Sullivan's Legend of the First Empire, in book 1, which is my favorite, Age of Myth.
And book 2, Age of Swords, was my favorite. And so with me, book 1 really only gives you the context you need to fully understand what's happening in one perspective. And I'm a reader, especially with fantasy, where I like at least some context up front so that I feel like I'm really immersed in the story. I find it's distracting for me if I'm busy trying to figure out what's happening. So like when I don't have enough context, I feel like it's almost distracting me from the finer details of the fantasy story because I'm busy trying to piece together what's happening.
You need context to get invested.
Yeah, so like I get to have more elaborate theories when I have at least some context, or I pick up on more detail, and usually that's a huge payoff with an epic fantasy series. So I definitely prefer some context up front. Anyway, so that was my struggle with book 1. And then book 2 follows my favorite character of the series an awful lot, Persephone, and definitely this was a highlight for that reason.
And again, I think we're the opposites, where I love going into a book trying to figure out what's going on. I like having stuff out of context and trying to figure out the mystery of everything. And also book 1 for me, I love the humor that's in this book with Wraith and Malcolm. I think their dynamic is very funny. and I just love the setup of this book.
Yeah, I think we have a different sense of humor for sure. But yeah, I get more payoff from noticing finer details and making theories and catching on to like the foreshadowing that was in place for something already when you get a reveal. And I think that just led to better book 2.
And ironically, either book 2 or maybe book 4 is probably my least favorite in the series.
5 is my least favorite in the series.
I like book 5. But you didn't really love the direction it went in.
No. I was all ready, because it's called Age of Death. So I was ready for it to like emotionally rip my heart out. And that's not what it is.
I would say the fan favorite of the series is book 3, which we both really like.
And that's kind of a toss up. Like if I was gonna pinpoint, I would say it's either Age of Swords or Age of War. But I think Age of Swords edges it out just because I love Persephone so much, and this book follows her a lot more. I think the other thing with book 3 is like it annoyed me in some small ways, but then I loved it so much that I kind of like got over the things that annoyed me, or like it didn't think about it as much. Whereas like this one had nothing that really annoyed me. And so I think that's the other reason it kind of edges it out.
Next up, yet again, another one of my favorite fantasy series. We did a read along for this, I think, probably like 2 years ago.
Either 2 or 3, I don't remember.
Yeah, long time ago. And yet again, folks, book 1, my favorite in the series. And I'm of course talking about Bradley P. Bulio's Song of Shattered Sand series in book 1, which is my favorite still, 12 Kings and Sherikai.
So, my favorite book in the series is A Veil of Spears, which is book 3. But my favorite entry in the series is one of the novellas, The Doors at Dusk and Dawn.
And it's funny, too, because you read all of the novels and all of the novellas.
Yeah.
You gave more... I don't think you gave any of the novels 5 stars, but you gave several of the novellas 5 stars.
3 of them, I think. Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah. So I was kind of, but also like some of the other novellas were my lowest rated entries in the series. So it really just depended.
Okay.
Yeah. But Doors at Dusk and Dawn, In the Village Where Bright Wine Flows, and then the final one, The Last Days of Old Sherikai, were my favorite entries in the series. But this one is the standout because it was like the first novella I loved.
Yeah, I would say if I was ranking, like if I ranked all the novels and novellas like side by side, that would definitely be up there. It's 5 stars. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But for me, like the novels, like following Cheda and all the other characters you get involved with, and I just love, again, the introduction of the world and figuring out, like, I love when things kind of just feel new for whatever reason, and book 1 is awesome. But I also love book 3, like you said, Veil of Spears. That's kind of the fan favorite a little bit.
I think it's where you get the most answers for big questions in the series, and it's also where you see the villains start to really develop.
It's got a little bit of a faster pace to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot more action.
Yeah, at the ending at least.
Yeah, I also love the finale. It's probably, book 6 is one of my favorite like endings to a series, fantasy series.
I like the after effects in the novella, The Last Days of Old Sherikai. I didn't necessarily gravitate as much to the final novel.
Yeah, it's one of the strongest for me just because a lot of my favorite fantasy series don't have endings yet. Stormlight Archive, Song of Ice and Fire, Gentlemen Bastards, no endings.
Yeah.
Very sad.
I was going to be a troll and say King Killer.
Oh, that he can just, he can write.
Not Jake's favorite.
No. I enjoyed, we're getting way off track here, but I liked book 1. But I loved like the first 200 pages of that. When you get to the university,
yeah, see, that's where it picked up for me.
Nope. And then book 2, I DNF'd that crap.
I liked book 2. There's chunks in there that are slower that I didn't like as much. Anyway, we're off on a tangent.
The next series, probably a mutual favorite fantasy series for both of us.
Maybe not like modern day favorite, but like
childhood favorite.
Yeah, childhood. Well, I didn't really read it as a kid. I read it as like I don't know, late teenager, early 20s maybe.
Close enough. But anyway, book 1 is actually not my favorite, even though I do love book 1. It's book 2. I'm of course talking about the Harry Potter series, and my favorite is Chamber of Secrets, which, very unpopular opinion, whenever I would watch ranking series or like ranking videos, everyone would be like, well, they're all 5 stars, but if I had to pick a least favorite, it'd be this one. I'm like, no, no, no. Chamber of Secrets is amazing.
That kind of makes sense for you because you're a horror fan. And I think it's like the most realistically scary of them all. So I can see why you gravitated towards that one. But I have the correct opinion here, and Half-Blood Prince is the best one.
This one is the book that got me back into Harry Potter in college, because I read the first 4 books as a kid, and then middle school hit, and I just didn't feel like finishing it. But then college, I read book 5, didn't like it. But then book 6, I really loved.
So I liked book 5, but I also really love a compelling, manipulative villain. And so 5 worked for me on that level. But 6 is where you get all the stuff with the Horcruxes, which is like the pièce de résistance in the series.
Okay.
For me.
But yeah, book 2, y'all are sleeping on it. It's so good.
I mean, it's good. It's not the worst
It's
one.
the best.
It's not the worst one. But 6 is the best.
The worst for me, probably unpopular opinion, is book 7. Deathly Hallows.
No, I like that.
Most of it doesn't take place at Harry Potter. It doesn't take place. It doesn't take place at Hogwarts. It just doesn't hit the same. Doesn't feel the same. It's.
You just have never been a fan of like the Harry, Ron, and Hermione relationship dynamics as much in the series. That's not your favorite piece, and I think a lot of book 7 does deal with their relationships, because you hated the beginning of Goblet of Fire too.
I just don't like all the YA romance crap with Harry and Ron and Hermione. Just get over it. Damn kids. Teenagers. I'm an old man. Next up, one of my all-time favorite sci-fi authors that you've read a few books from at this point.
5 things from.
5 things? Okay.
Yeah.
So my all-time, probably my favorite trilogy of all time, which is a bit surprising, but I'm going to have to go with Sylvain Neville's Themis Files.
I was like, do you even know the name of the trilogy?
Shut up. Themis Files by Sylvain Neville would have to be Sleeping Giants, of course. Book 1, yet again, love it so much. And your favorite by him would be?
His newer novella called No Kindness Too Soon. It's an Audible only, so we don't have it. But I did really like Sleeping Giants until I got to Only Human, and then it kind of...
Oh, you liked Themis Files.
Yeah, sorry. But I also did like Sleeping Giants and Waking Gods. But No Kindness Too Soon was better for me.
I mean, I've given basically almost 5 stars to everything he's read, so I agree. No Kindness Too Soon.
It's written.
Whatever, man. Everything the man's written, I've really liked.
Yeah, this one isn't as egregious. We both like each other's picks. We just have different ideas.
That would have been nuggety for you if I picked Only Human, because then you'd be like, no.
No, absolutely wrong.
But yeah, definitely one of my all-time favorite trilogies, which is shocking for people because a lot of people just don't like book 3. They'll read book 1 and 2, and then they're like, book 3, not so much.
Yeah.
His other trilogy is really good.
I haven't read that
very underrated. Kind of connected to Themis Files in a way, which is fun. Hopefully he writes more because I love all his stuff. Now we're switching gears, folks, to some thrillers. We've mutually read like some thrillers, but like one author in particular that we both enjoy and have read, I think basically all of her books at this point.
I haven't read all of them, but I've read at least like 5 or 6 of them.
Okay, we've read a bunch of them. Is Cherie LaPena. And my favorite one by her, the first one that I ever read, is The Couple Next Door.
And my favorite is What Have You Done, her newest one. And I think the reason that this one works so well for me is that she really took time to think about the red herrings and make everything seem very plausible. And I really didn't know what the answer to the mystery was, and it kept me up late reading for that reason. I will say I don't recommend the audio though, because they make a choice for the audiobook that gives something away, or at least did for me. Whereas if I was reading physically or ebook, I wouldn't have noticed. So yeah, do with that what you will.
That one I liked, but I didn't like the reveal. I didn't like the ending of it.
That's fair.
Like it was pretty good, like very good pacing, and like the mystery aspect was good. But then I had a theory in my. This can kind of ruin thrillers sometimes, where you think you know where it's going, but then it ends up somewhere else, and you're like, no. But The Couple Next Door is awesome. Go check it out. Right from the first chapter, Stolen Baby.
Yeah, I did like Couple Next Door. But I think with that one, it includes more detective POV stuff, which I don't necessarily gravitate to as much as more of like the characters experiencing the thing. So
I think if we had to pick a mutual favorite, like one that we both really enjoyed, it'd be Everyone Here Is Lying.
yeah, we both liked that one too.
And she's definitely an author that we'll keep reading more of her stuff from to try to find new favorites.
We've already got her new one this year pre-ordered on Audible.
So the last series we have to mention is the Dresden Files, and there's like, what, almost 20 books in this series?
Well, I think 18, but then 2 short story collections and a novella, so depending on how you're counting.
A lot.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I've only read the first 13 novels and then 1 collection. And
I've read them all.
Yeah, she's read them all. And I definitely got burnt out by the end. I'll eventually go back and reread it, probably closer to when all the books come out. But definitely, I mean, I think kind of a major book that everyone, like the fan favorite is book 12, and we both really like that. But if I had to pick like a favorite for me, would be book 7, Deadbeat.
And mine would be a book 10, Small Favor.
Which I really like too.
Yeah, I think for me, it broke out of the norms a little bit in the ending with the tone of the ending of Small Favor. And I think I really appreciated the amount of stakes and emotion that was present in the ending. But also I just like the pacing of that one. And it features my favorite Dresden villain, Nicodemus.
I liked book 7 because there's a lot of like side characters who can kind of have like their own story.
Yeah, book 7's where you meet Butters for the first time, right?
I really liked Butters. And just the overall ending to book 7, I thought was just one of the most badass things.
It's creative.
I really liked it. And as a drummer, very, very fun aspects as well.
Yeah, that's valid.
Book 7, I mean, book 12 is awesome. But if I had to pick something else, it'd be book 7.
Book 10.
Book 10 is also great.
Yeah. 10, 11, and 12 are all amazing. That's like the best section.
Yeah. If I had to rank them, my ranking would probably be very different from a lot of people. Because I really liked book 1 and 2, but a lot of people...
Who likes book 2?
I just said I like book 2. I really liked book 2. And then for me, kind of the down point in the series was 3, 4, and 5. Which
5 was my favorite early Dresden book. I like it more than 7.
Yeah, I didn't like the direction it went in. But then once, book 6 and 7, like that kind of turned it around for me. And then book 8 was really good, but then book 9 was kind of meh.
Yeah, 9 is not one of the more memorable entries for me.
And then books 10, 11, and 12 were all solid.
Yeah, amazing. And then 13 and 14 for me were slower, and I didn't love the slower pace. But then when we got back up to like Skin Game, Peace Talks, and Battleground, I started loving it again.
I DNF'd book 13 like 3 times. I could not get into it. And then book 14, I was just like, you know what? I'm kind of done for now.
Oh boy.
I basically need like a read along for it. But like when all of the books are out.
Yeah.
And I can kind of just go and binge them.
It's going to be a while.
I'm aware. All right, so those were kind of mutual favorite authors that we've both read a bunch and we both liked a bunch. But we have different favorites from them.
Yeah.
I have no idea how I'm going to title this video, but I'll figure it out because that's too long of a title.
It's a future Jake problem.
Yeah, future me will be like, But we have, like authors that we both like, but we just happen to have like different favorites. And sometimes, we both like our favorites. Like Poppy War, like Burning God, I still really love that book. And you still like Poppy War, but sometimes it's a little bit more egregious. I'm trying to think of an example. Like Stephen King was kind of an honorable mention, but like I love Dolores, but you don't love The Dead Zone.
No, 3.5 stars.
Yeah, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid. After I Do, I still really liked Daisy Jones. You were kind of lukewarm on it a bit.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. There's like so many of her other ones I like more than that one.
If you guys are interested, well, also comment down below, like, which one has better taste? What do you like my picks better, or do you like her picks better?
Probably a mixture, honestly, because I think we both at some points have like hot takes, and then we both have popular opinions too.
So comment that down below. Also comment down below if you want to see us do kind of a similar thing, but we talk about our mutual favorites from authors.
Yeah,
so like authors we've read a bunch from, but we agree on what their best book is.
Yeah, because we have a couple of those that I can think of offhand.
Yeah, I won't give the books away, but like possibly like Riley Sager,
Dan Wells, Sando, maybe for the ones that I've read.
You haven't read Stormlight.
No, but for the ones that I have read,
probably not actually.
No, okay.
You also haven't read Mistborn Era 2.
I started Mistborn Era 2.
Yeah, but the best...
People say you can't read Lost Metal until after you read some Stormlight, and so I've been dragging my feet.
We'll get that's a problem for another day. If you guys like this video, hit the thumbs up button, and
don't forget to hit like. Oh, I just said that.
Don't
forget to subscribe, join the Discord, check out the Patreon and the Amazon wish list if you want to buy Jake a book.
Yeah, all of that. She kind of just stole it from me. Bye.
Taking over your outro. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to check out my channel, The Chapter Conundrum.
You don't have to.
Wow. I have lots of this munchkin over there too.
I'm on her channel a lot too.
Yeah.
You just took over this outro. And
do you want to redo the outro?
No. Screw it. We're going with it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.